Hi, and welcome to the Lead podcast. Today we have with us Ketki Date, language consultant and author, and we're going to be having a freewheeling conversation on yoga. Welcome, Ketki.
Thanks, India.
A little bit about the history of yoga, uh, a very ancient practice that is continues to be and is very popular around the world today. It has been given special emphasis by our Prime Minister, who's even named a day as World Yoga Day. So let's go back a little bit into the historical and our own Itihasa view of yoga. The first proponent of yoga, if you look back, is Shiva himself, Lord Shiva, as Adi Yogi.
That's true.
Yeah. So he is supposed to have imparted the science of yoga, so to speak, to the Sapta Rishis, who in turn took it to other parts of the world. And sage Agastya, he took it around the subcontinent, and later on, Patanjali very famously codified it into his yoga shastras. So you yourself are a yoga practitioner. Tell us what this means to you.
But as far as I
How
know,
different, similar?
I know of Raja Yoga, I know of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga,
But they are
Hatha
different
Yoga.
practices, not to do with the
Um,
exercise of the body, isn't it?
it starts off with that.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately for us, it's also ending on that. So these are the different kinds of yoga that I know. The Laya
I think
Yoga,
what we
Swara Yoga,
popularly practice is the Hatha Yoga.
Hatha Yoga,
Yeah.
Ashtanga Yoga,
Yeah, yeah.
Bhakti Yoga. I would prefer Bhakti Yoga, but that's not for us because
It's for spiritual
it's for
practitioners.
those who have,
Yeah.
who can totally immerse themselves in bhakti. So for us, we could do Hatha Yoga, we can do Ashtanga Yoga. These are the most popular, well-known. People know more about it, and it's to do with actually practicing the different asanas or the different styles that are incorporated in this kind of yoga. If you ask me what I practice, I really don't know if there's a term for it. It's just it's normal yogasanas and asana, pranayam, mudra, bandha. But I follow the Bihar school of yoga,
And
the
what is
BSY.
that?
So BSY is it's world's first yoga university, founded in Munger in Bihar by Swami Satyanand Saraswati.
Okay, and when was this?
I think this was in 1963, the first ever yoga university where you actually handed out degrees after 2 years of rigorous courses.
And these degrees are for teaching or that you have actually studied?
For teaching, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So you study to be a teacher,
teacher,
but it's a
okay.
2 year rigorous course
All right.
where you stay on campus and you study. And it's extremely, extremely rigorous, like IB.
Okay.
So I follow that school of yoga, and it's nothing but a system of asana, pranayam, mudra, bandha that has been codified in that particular school.
And this is what was codified by Patanjali? Not really.
All yoga, I mean, it's all if you draw a Venn diagram, it's all overlapping. No? Finally you have yoga, and different people have, according to me, that's what I feel. People have rediscovered yoga on their own.
Right.
For example, Jaggi Vasudev has his own. So they've delved into the well of yoga,
Yeah.
taken out what
What has possibly appealed or which communicates to them.
exactly, which
Yeah,
resonates with
to
them,
them.
which they've understood,
Yeah.
and they have formed their own combination and permutation of asanas and meditation exercises.
Right.
Or Shri Ravi Shankar for
Yeah.
that matter.
I suppose you could be right because nothing is ever codified into something so rigid for us, isn't it? We are allowed to explore, experiment, and take what suits us and discard what does
That's
not
true.
appeal to us,
That's
isn't
true.
it?
That's true.
So there is no distinct, rigid path that's actually prescribed in any of our spiritual practices. So I think this applies to yoga as well.
That's true. It's absolutely flexible. Take what you want. In fact, what stands out to me is a whole plethora of choices. The practitioner has always been given a choice. take what you need.
Hmm.
Take what is easy.
Hmm.
Take what is practical to you. Take what you can do.
Hmm.
But what you need is consistency, satatya, regularity,
Discipline, what we call.
discipline.
Discipline, Ketki, is not the most difficult thing today because people are much more aware about their health, their bodies, and what they ought to eat. And there's so much awareness about all these that we shall assume that discipline shall follow if you begin yoga practice. But let us get a little more of yoga in context because today yoga has gone all around the world. It has been adapted time and again into different kinds of workouts, into different brands of
That's true.
yoga
That's
by
true.
different people. And we shall not, in that sense, we shall not call it appropriation, but we have a very rooted context. So tell us a little bit about, our the context where yoga actually kind of emerged in the subcontinent.
We've come so far from what yoga actually means or what yoga is. I have also been distracted by these different brands of yoga, as you mentioned. You know, we have the hot yoga, the Vikram yoga, then you have
Yeah.
Malaika Arora's Diva
Yeah,
yoga,
yeah.
and Shilpa Shetty's yoga, and
Yeah, yeah.
you have
But
the
it may be a
Sudarshan
good
Kriya.
thing because these are celebrities who are actually propagating yoga among,
It's a
maybe a segment who
definitely,
may not
definitely,
otherwise take
definitely.
to
There's
this
no
form. Yeah,
arguing that.
yeah,
It's certainly made it more accessible. More people know it,
yeah,
and more people are following it because they feel that, oh, celebrities are doing it,
yeah.
I should do it too. So
Yeah.
it's something that
Or maybe it's
has
cool
caught their
to,
attention.
yeah,
It's
cool
it's
to
cool.
do
It's cool.
yoga. Yeah, yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
So yoga is cool. Let's do it.
Mm.
Um, right. So I have been distracted as well, and I thought I should try and get to know what yoga is or what yogasanas are. And when I started learning Sanskrit, which is where my teacher told me that yoga comes from the word yuj.
Mm-hmm.
Yuj is a dhatu or root verb,
Okay.
which means to join or to unite.
Right.
So
Wow.
yoga is nothing but union or unity or oneness
Okay.
of individual consciousness with universal consciousness.
Okay. Interesting. One never thought of the etymology of the word or the word meaning, real word meaning. Yoga has become synonymous with an exercise or the asanas maybe.
That's true, and that's at an extremely superficial level. So
Mm.
you realize that asanas are that's the skin,
Mm.
and there is something that is much deeper than
Just then.
just them. So asanas are just the beginning. So you have asana, pranayam, mudra, bandha,
Mm-hmm.
yama, niyama,
Mm.
dhyan, dharana, pratyahar, and samadhi.
Right.
So everyone is at the yogasan form, which is the basest form
Most
of
basic and earthy form, yeah,
of
yeah. So,
yoga as a whole, and we need to get to the samadhi portion, which is we need to be born 84 lakh times. Which
whoa,
do you know there are 84 lakh asanas? There used to be
really?
84 lakh combinations, 84 lakh asanas, which
Uh-huh.
is nothing but a representation of 84 lakh lives that every
The,
human being must go through
before the
before
ultimate,
before he attains liberation from the cycle of birth and death.
yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Very interesting.
So when I went back to what yoga means, it means huge,
Mm.
is when I realized that these schools of yoga might exist, and it's all fine. You can follow whatever school of yoga you want, or school of philosophy, or school of thought. Ultimately, yes, you're doing yogasanas, you're doing asana, pranayam, mudra, bandha, dhyan, dharana, pratyahar. They might call it different names. So different bottles, same wine. You still will be on the same path. You'll still be on the same marg.
Except perhaps for maybe beer yoga.
What was that? I like that.
Well, there it does. I did see it somewhere on social media. Beer yoga. Yeah.
And
So
how do you do it? How do you have beer? Yeah, it's like having beer while you're doing yoga, or what? What is
yeah,
it?
it seems something like that. But I somehow connected it to the beer belly.
I don't know. I think people will end up in shavasana after an intense session of beer
Beer
yoga.
yoga. So.
So for me, it's I stick to the pure yogasan, where you call it Kati Chakrasan, Chakrasan, Tadasan, Trikonasan, Halasan, Sarvangasan, Shirshasan. So I think I stick to that brand of yoga where it's as simple as naming the asana and doing it, knowing the name of the pranayam and doing it. For instance, your Anulom Vilom or alternate nose breathing or Bhastrika, Kapalbhati, Sitakari. These pranayams are fine. So for me, it's I follow a textbook
Right.
published by the BSY. But apart from that, no schools of yoga for me, no schools of the Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, no branded yoga for me. I think brand for people really works when it's a very cultist thing. You like the person who's promoting the brand and you follow that
You
kind of
connect
yoga.
with him, maybe.
You connect with
But
that
maybe,
person.
for some people, they need it because when there is no self motivation, or you could call it self discipline, it helps to have someone like that lead you into yoga, isn't it?
I agree, and I have no I have no hostility or I have no animosity towards these schools of yoga or brands of yoga, except that I keep reading all the time how these brands have started, succeeded spectacularly, and then failed. You have Bikram Yoga, you have Hot Yoga, where the founders are, all sorts of allegations against them, and it's just not nice because on one hand you're teaching yoga, which is which transforms lives, and on the other hand you have these founders who destroy lives, and there are followers who have been utterly demotivated, who have so which is why I prefer to not follow a person and just do your yoga. But that's because I've arrived at a conclusion on my own independently.
That's great. So we would also like to know from you a little bit of maybe the spiritual context. I mean the textual context. Maybe from any of our scriptures. I mean Patanjali, where and how of some of the maybe the theory, the yoga theories.
So we would like to know more about where yoga has been mentioned in our scriptures, or where we find a written record or documentation of these combinations of and permutations of exercises,
and perhaps maybe anecdotal accounts of some yoga taught somewhere. Even perhaps I'm not sure when Bhishma was lying on those bed of arrows. How did he condition himself to bear the pain and discipline himself, to a slow death, and as it happened.
Okay.
It was perhaps a form of yoga, I would think, isn't it?
I think the best person to talk to would be my Sanskrit teacher, Mugdha Godbole.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk to her and find
Why
out
don't we
more
have her
about
in this
these?
podcast right now?
Definitely. Let's chat with Mugdha Godbole, who is an expert in Sanskrit language and Vedic literature. Talking about the Yoga Shastra will be incomplete without Patanjali. Mugdha, can you tell us exactly how these two are connected with each other? आपण जेव्हा जेव्हा योगाचा उल्लेख करतो तेव्हा आपल्याला नेहमी पतंजली आठवतात. तर पतंजली आणि योगचा नेमका काय संबंध आहे? योगशास्त्राची निर्मिती त्यांनी केली का, किंवा योगाचा शोध त्यांनी लावला का, याबद्दल काही सांगू शकशील?
योग ही संकल्पना शास्त्रशुद्ध किंवा शास्त्रबद्ध सूत्र स्वरूपात कोणी केली तर ती पतंजली ऋषींनी केली.
Rishi Patanjali has been instrumental in codifying the science of yoga.
त्याच्या आधी योग संकल्पना नव्हती का? होती, पण ती इतकी लोकांच्या अंगवळणी पडलेली होती की त्याला शास्त्राचं स्वरूप किंवा ते एक दर्शनशास्त्र आहे आणि योग संकल्पनेकडे तुम्ही कॉन्शियसली बघितलं तर तुम्ही मोक्ष प्राप्ती पण तुम्हाला होऊ शकते. हे कोणी इंट्रोड्यूस केलं तर पतंजली ऋषी.
Does this mean that yoga as a concept didn't exist before Patanjali? Of course it did. He was responsible in introducing the awareness that yoga can be used to climb the evolution ladder right till the top, which is moksha.
पतंजलींनी योग शास्त्राची काय व्याख्या केली? योग चित्त वृत्ती निरोध. म्हणजे काय? चित्तात परत मन बुद्धी चित्त अहंकार, तर त्या चित्तातल्या ज्या वृत्ती म्हणजे त्यातली जी व्हायब्रेशन्स आहेत त्याला निरोध करणं, म्हणजे ते कंट्रोल मध्ये आणणं. मेन चित्तावरतीच घाला घातला की मन ताब्यात येतच. मग ते कुठल्या मार्गाने होईल? तर ते ह्या 8 मार्गाने होईल. यम नियम आसन प्राणायाम प्रत्याहार धारणा ध्यान समाधी. हे आपलं झालेलं आहे आणि हे तुम्हाला
अष्टांग योग. According to him, yoga chitta vritti nirodha, or man buddhi chitta ahankar, can be controlled. And how does one control the mind? By the eightfold path, also known as the Ashtanga Yoga, which is yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, dhyan, dharana, pratyahar and samadhi. मला असं विचारायचं आहे मुग्धा की पतंजली ऋषी इसवी सन 2ऱ्या शतकात होऊन गेले, तर त्यांच्या आधी योगशास्त्र अस्तित्वातच नव्हतं का? Patanjali is said to have lived around the 2nd century BC. So does it mean that the Yoga Shastras did not exist before Patanjali's times?
तर गीता हे आपण खूप चांगलं उदाहरण देऊ शकतो पतंजली योगसूत्रांच्या आधीचं.
Gita is an excellent example and proof that Yoga Shastra existed before Patanjali.
आता तसं म्हटलं तर गीता किती आधीची आहे? द्वापार युगातली गीता आहे.
Gita is a part of Mahabharata that happened in the Dwapar Yuga.
दुसऱ्या अध्यायात सुरुवात कशाने केली? कर्मयोग, ज्ञानयोग, भक्तियोग, कर्मयोग, क्रियायोग. हे योगाचे 4 प्रकार आहेत.
The second adhyay or chapter of Gita starts with Karma Yoga. Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga and Kriya Yoga are 4 groups or types of yoga.
ज्ञानयोग म्हणजे काय? तुम्ही बुद्धीने इतके या निसर्गाशी एकरूप झाला आहात की तुमच्याकडनं जी निर्मिती होती आहे ती सर्वांगीण विकासासाठी होती आहे. हा ज्ञानयोग झाला. भक्ती योग म्हणजे अगदी जे पांडुरंग म्हणजे सगळं अर्पणच करून टाकायचं. जे ज्ञानेश्वर तुकारामांनी जे जे केलं तोच भक्तियोग. म्हणजे त्यांनी भक्तियोग केलं नाही, तेच भक्तियोगाचं उदाहरण आहे. मग कर्मयोग, कर्मयोग म्हणजे पांडुरंग शास्त्री आठवले, ज्यांना आपण म्हणू शकतो की ते त्यांची कर्म इतकी अलाइन करतात धर्माचं रक्षण आणि धर्माचा प्रसार प्रचार याच्यासाठी ते एकरूप झालेले असतात आपल्या कर्माशी. कर्माशी म्हणजे काय? ऍक्शनशी. तो कर्मयोग झाला. आणि मग क्रियायोग म्हणजे आपण श्री श्री रविशंकर आताच्या उदाहरणात ठेवूया, सद्गुरू वगैरे मुद्रा वगैरे या ज्या सगळ्या येतात त्या म्हणजे शांभवी महामुद्रा हे एक धादांत उदाहरण आहे क्रियायोगाचं. किंवा अरविंदांचं आहे
किंवा आपलं योगानंद
किंवा ऑटोबायोग्राफी ऑफ योगी. हे क्रियायोगाची ही अगदी अशी म्हणजे पक्की उदाहरण.
Jnana Yoga is using your intellect for all-round development of yourself. Bhakti Yoga is personified by the saints Dhaneshwar and Tukaram, which is complete surrender. Karma Yoga is to protect and to spread dharma via your actions. Kriya Yoga, I think in modern times, Shambhavi Mudra is an excellent example that comes from the Sri Sri Ravi Shankar school of yoga. Aurobindo and Yogananda are also known for their Kriya Yoga. Yogananda is the same person who wrote Autobiography of a Yogi.
तर योग त्या शब्दामध्ये युज हा धातू आहे आणि युज याचा अर्थ टू बाइंड, टू मर्ज.
Yoga comes from the root verb yuja, which means to bind or to merge.
स्त्री म्हणजे तुम्ही आणि मी स्त्री नाही. या विश्वातलं जे शक्ती तत्व आहे ते एकरूप होतं त्या स्थिर गोष्टीशी, त्या पुरुषाशी. दॅट इज योग.
The Stri Shakti or the Prakriti merges with the Purusha, and that is yoga. आजच्या काळात योगशास्त्र नेमकं कसं अवलंबिलं जात आहे? Can you tell us a bit about how to include the practice of yoga in your life, especially given the vastness of the scope of yogabhyas?
सुरुवात करायची असेल तर तुम्ही आसनं आणि प्राणायामाने सुरुवात करा. त्याच्यापैकी एकच काहीतरी करत बसला तरी पण उपयोग नाही. ती जोडगोळीच आहे. त्या दोन्हीने सुरुवात करा आणि 21 दिवसानंतर स्वतःतच होणारा बदल इतका जाणवायला लागेल की तो बाहेरच्यांनाही जाणवायला लागेल. इतकं सातत्याने तुम्ही योगासनं आणि प्राणायाम केला आणि ही जीवनशैलीत जर तुम्ही घातलं तर मग काय म्हणजे काय relevant.
Start with asana and pranayam together. It's a package deal. One is incomplete without the other, sort of like Yoga Shastra and Patanjali. You will see the changes in merely 21 days if you practice yogasana and pranayam regularly. Or the key to success lies in being regular. Eventually, sky becomes the limit.
योगासनं आपल्याला मदत करतात की आपलं दैनंदिन आयुष्य तर सुकर बनवतातच, प्लस आपल्याकडे ते वेळेची उपलब्धता होते त्यांनी. कारण की जर आपण एफिशियंटली कुठलंही काम केलं, एखादं काम करायला मला 2 तास लागत असते, तर मी शारीरिक, मानसिक, भावनिक स्टेबल असेल तर मी तेच काम 1 तासात करते आणि माझ्याकडे 1 अख्ख्या तासाचा वेळ उरतो.
It makes your life easier. It makes you efficient in your work. Something that would take you a couple of hours now takes you maybe 1. That's because you've become physically and emotionally stable, and this is achieved by the practice of yoga.
That's a great perspective from Mukta Ketki. The fact that yoga has never been like a a block of stone. It's like flowing water that is forever adapted, which is ever reshaped, refashioned, poured into new bottles, new pots, new pans. So yoga has not is not a static thing. It is something that moves, and with time, I think generationally people have adapted and adopted it to suit a time and space, isn't it?
I agree with it. I absolutely agree with it. And as you say, you have to keep in touch with times, and you have to change with time. It doesn't mean that. It means you follow the same. You follow yoga. You do your yogasanas. You do your pranayam. But maybe you call it differently. You do it differently. You package it differently. You present it differently. I think that's important too. So, but if it means teaching your children or teaching the next generation hip breathing exercises to control your breath as opposed to pranayam, go ahead.
It's literally free for all.
I think as long as there are people who feel responsible to propagate and conserve that knowledge, it's fine with me. It's fine with me if 10 people choose to call it the cat pose, and then there are 15 who know what cat pose is. It's the Marjariasana.
Yeah, I mean, for example, the Surya Namaskar I don't think it's ever been anything else. It's been the hardest to rename or give it a fancy name. It's
You
still
call
the
it
Surya
sun salutations. I have people who call it the sun salutations instead of Surya Namaskar.
But at
It
least
breaks
it's not,
my heart.
But at least it's a literal translation of the Surya Namaskar instead of being something else. Instead of being cardiac cohesion breathing exercises. So there's yoga, the learning is endless. It's like I don't think at any point you become a master. You're learning constantly.
That's true. That's true. You're learning constantly. You won't master it till you reach the last stage, which is the samadhi, which is when you've mastered it all. At the moment, we are very much on.
Do you think that understanding should be there for anybody who wants to practice yoga, even from the basics? Somebody who's getting into yoga, in the sense that the understanding of the context of the yoga as what it does in our life, like you said, you're a learner till you reach samadhi. Do you think that's an understanding that's required to be inculcated or no?
So we go back to our earlier conversation where I said that it's a well. You can draw as much as you want, or you can dive deeper. You can stay on the surface. You can stay outside the well, keep drawing water, or you prefer to dive in.